Welcome to the podcast of School Beyond Limitations. In this podcast, you will learn how to guide your child through their school life with the intention to help them find their unique essence that will allow your daughter, your son to live a fulfilled and meaningful life. How did School Beyond Limitations start? Well, that's an interesting question. So I would like to give you an insight about the history and, of course, more about School Beyond Limitations. School Beyond Limitations has become already quite popular, if not to say very popular in the German-speaking regions and quite popular also in Europe. And I would like to introduce you to School Beyond Limitations because School Beyond Limitations is a very unique school setting. And before I talk about School Beyond Limitations, I think it's important for you to get to know me a little bit better. So my name is Martina Geromin, Dr. Martina Geromin. And as you may see from the title of my name, I've really studied for a long time pedagogy and psychology. So education has always been my passion. But let me start a little bit later in my life, when I got to know my partner of School Beyond Limitations, and it's Katharina Förster, whom I actually was a client of, because after many times of moving from country to country, from city to city, I realized that I wanted to become a little bit more independent than before, because I've been working, and I will let you more in a minute, I've been working in the education field for, at the time already, for 34 years, I remember. And I'm just moved from Lugano, Switzerland, to Zurich, Switzerland. And I used to be a head of school of international schools. And I used to work for over 30 years, as I mentioned before, in the field of education by covering lots of different roles. I started as a teacher, of course, and in middle school in Italy. I'm Italian, by the way. And then we moved internationally, and together with my family, we moved to Zurich. And there I was finally exposed to the international arena, which is the IB system. And the IB system was very different. And just to give you an idea of these moves, and I can imagine that maybe if you are watching this podcast, you are, or you may be in a similar situation, moving from country to country, from city to city, and you may start always from scratch again. And that applies not only often and many times to women, but also to children who move with their family from one place to the next place. So, as I said before, I met in one course, marketing coaching course, back in 2018, my partner Katharina Förster, and she was my coach basically, and I learned online through her techniques how to set up a business. And at the beginning of that journey, she, of course, together with her partner at the time, asked me which area I was coming from. And we were talking about education. And at the time, she mentioned already that she was looking, and she was also dreaming of having a school. But during this coaching program, I didn't think that much anymore about it, and I wanted to just set up my business. I was actually orientated to set up a business in leadership for women after having worked, as I mentioned before, as a head of school in different countries. So at the end of the course, Katharina called me. And in this conversation, she said, actually, because we were talking a lot about positioning, right? And positioning was one of the main aspects in that course. She said, "Are you really sure, Martina, that you want to pursue this kind of positioning?" And I said, "Yes, why?" And she said, I'm wondering because I myself have two daughters, and we are traveling a lot around Europe, and we are not having a steady, location to live in. And I'm looking for something for my own daughters. So don't you think it would be possible to set up a school online? And I took this idea with me and I said, I have already worked so long on setting up a holistic program. And that holistic program was already not yet completely set in stone, but it was already kind of there because about 10 years before, I wanted to set up a physical school run in a specific place in Europe, a boarding school, and with lots of different pillars that I wanted to bring into education because I realized that education really needed some additional bits that are forgotten in many systems, whether this is the traditional system of the different states, whether this is a self-directed learning system, or whether this is the Finnish system or the IB system. Anyways, I said to Katarina, let me have some time to work on it and to see how best we can bring, this all these aspects together, because I was initially a little bit skeptical about, setting up an online school, because I myself know how important it is for a child and for a human being to have exposure to, real life situations, to friends, in real life and not only online. However, during that course that I underwent with Katarina and her partner, I realized that you indeed can set up real life also connections and relationships with people that you start to get to know online. So to get this story a little bit shorter, I worked on this, and a few weeks later, I had another conversation with Katarina, and I presented her the entire, design of the model, of the learning and teaching model of School Beyond Limitations. I also had this idea because I'm a fond, kind of believer in conscious leadership also, because conscious leadership is a big part of School Beyond Limitations. I presented it to Katarina, and I said to her, there are these 4 pillars that are so important, which we will then bring to your attention a little bit later. And she was immediately completely, in awe about the this design. So Katarina was very brave actually to say, listen, let's just start this and let's go into a pilot phase with her own daughters. And so we started this experience, a very exciting experience, as you can imagine, because it's new. And honestly speaking, I took it on board and I taught those 3 students myself, because of course, if you create something, you need to know how it is working in real life situations. So this is what I did, and I was very, very surprised to see how well actually it worked, and so was Katarina. It really worked well. And maybe, and this is also something we will get into more detail in another podcast, this, the social aspect I was talking to you about before is an important aspect, and also the emotional aspect. And you can imagine that this was an important place for the learning and teaching approach of School Beyond Limitations. So we connected, and I connected basically the online aspects with the offline aspects. And indeed, we are getting together a few times per year. And as I mentioned before, you will get to know more about this. But this getting together a few times per year is very, very important. So after a few months of piloting it myself with the students, I was completely flabbergasted, and I was excited to see the impact it had, on the students and on the students' perception of learning. So learning was amazing. The students really started to love what they were doing. And I remember one of the students, she was 14 and a half at the time, if I'm not mistaken, and it was the daughter of Katarina. And she mentioned to me, I think that was around in March, that she would like to write a book. And then I said, why don't you write this book? And she said, but how can I do that? An entire book. And so we just started, I started to coach her like we do at School Beyond Limitations, because this is what it's all about. We take the students' interests and the students' ideas really on board and try to find ways for them to put them into practice. And by the end of the school year, and that's about 2.5 months later, the book was finished, and it was an amazing book. And you can imagine how Faye is the student's name felt. She felt so proud of herself that she was able to complete, to achieve, to accomplish something of such a big, measure. And yes, so that took us to say, okay, now we officially start. And in May 2019, I think it was, so about a year later that we started the process, we decided to set up a real school, officially a real school, School Beyond Limitations. And also the name, this just came. It was, that's also interesting to see, and that's part of School Beyond Limitations. That universe always conspires if you are on the right track. So the name School Beyond Limitations came to me because it was just, it was this idea of not seeing limitations in life, because indeed there are no limitations. All the limitations are kind of set up by human beings, by all of us, yeah? And that doesn't mean that we don't take reality seriously. We look at reality, but always with a focus on how can we find solutions? How can we find a way through? How can we go beyond? And this is the message that every day we pass on to our students. So we created in May 2019 School Beyond Limitations officially, and we had a clear plan in our minds. The plan was to start at the end of August 2019 with 16 students, because of course it has to be viable also from a financial point of view, as you can imagine. So we also already hired some co-workers out of my network, and I must really say I'm so extremely delighted. I was delighted and honored and also grateful that there were, facilitators, as we call them, teachers out there who were ready to leave their steady positions to actually join us on a journey that was so extremely new. It was innovative. They loved the innovation, but it was also risky. And so we offered a job to to two facilitators. One in the end didn't join us in the first place for personal reasons, but later on joined us. And the first person, and I may even mention her name, and it's Kiki Tompazi. She really just jumped on on the train, and she was immediately just so extremely convinced that this is the way forward, that she left everything and she came along. So we wanted to start, as I mentioned before, with 16 students, because we have to cater for one co-worker. At the time I still thought of two co-workers and myself, and also Katarina, But at the end of the day, instead of having 16 students, we only had 5 students. So we had a conversation between Katarina and myself, what shall we do? But there was no other option. We again thought of going beyond limitations. We said, now we just go. We don't give up because of that. We took the risk. We still take the risk, Of course, the co-worker has to be there and has to be paid properly, and we really appreciate what our, in all ways, what our co-workers do. And so it was a given that we would deal with it accordingly, and that we would say, okay, first our co-workers and then us. And we started with 5 students, but we started already with a residential week. And at the time, we started the school year with a residential week, and having only a few students, we were able to set up basically the agreements with the students, and the students were involved, in the process of how would that work best. And the students were just, also excited because they realized that they were seen for what they are. And our first residential week took us to Murcia, Alicante, close to Alicante in Spain. And parents also came along, and the first day was done with parents and students together. And it was just an amazing experience, although, the future was uncertain. And what can I say now? It's 4 years, not even 4 years, when we started officially. And now we have 180 students. We have 25 colleagues that work with us and that make School Beyond Limitations the vibrant and very unique learning environment that there is. And we will give you much more details, of course, also about our facilitators and why they join us. But maybe just shortly, I wanted to let you know that while it was very difficult, maybe at the beginning because of the risk situation, and now we are kind of flooded by applications, and we are in a very, very unique and let's say also grateful situation that colleagues are joining us from all over the world. We have, as I said before, 25 colleagues who are coming from 3-4 different continents, not countries, continents. They're coming from Africa, from America, from Asia, from Europe, of course. And you can imagine how this has an impact on the delivery and on the culture of School Beyond Limitations. I would also like to emphasize, maybe, although we are kind of new to the market, right? School Beyond Limitations has a history of now 5 years, and the official part is 4 years. We need to say that the experience, the professionalism, and the professional approach of all our facilitators is so extremely vast, that this can't be found easily elsewhere. So we are young, but at the same time, we are old, bringing all the best facilitators with their experience into a model that is so extremely innovative and always aiming to have the student, really each student, in the center of our attention. So, as I mentioned before, we wanted to start with 16 students and we only started with 5. And this is a little bit, I would like you to have maybe a little bit an insight about what parents go through. So Katarina, of course, she is this kind of person. I go for something new because she's just living this in her daily life as much as actually I do too, because I believe that life is offering us so many opportunities and just grab them and go for them. But when parents have to take decisions about the future of their own children, there is also a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety. Are we doing the right thing for them? And that's why many parents, I can't remember how many application interviews and conversations I conducted at the beginning. I just can tell you that probably 2% signed up at the end of the day. Yeah. And now we have reversed it completely, because still there are many parents who are full of questions, and we are there and in a good position now that we can bring lots of evidence and can tell parents and give them advice, give them our, all the facts that we have now collected, and that we can tell them, listen, there is no risk that you undertake. Look at what our students have already achieved. And this takes me now to something and I personally, I'm very proud of, because as mentioned before, one of the first students, Faye, who wanted to become a writer already at the time, she has successfully then undertaken, her IGCSEs, her A-levels, because we help our students get ready for those examinations. And she already, I think it was about a few months later or a year later, that she knew that she would like to go to study at Oxford University. And I remember that I said, we need to go there. You need to have an understanding what this is all about. And this is also something that School Beyond Limitations does. We start from the goal of a student. So we help the student understand what is their real goal, what is their why. And then we look backwards. What do we need to do to get there? And one thing is, I get into this energy, what it means in this case to be in Oxford. So you need to go there, you need to understand. A long story short, Faye is now at Oxford. She was our first graduating student last year, and she was accepted into the University of Oxford without any conditions, and she's happily now studying there. And this year we will have another 10 graduates from School Beyond Limitations. And I think what makes School Beyond Limitations so unique is that some of them, they are undertaking academic studies. Some are going to the Netherlands, some are studying in Austria, some are studying in Great Britain. Others, however, they become entrepreneurs or have already become entrepreneurs. They join the businesses of their parents, or they set up their own business. And this is what we also do. We encourage our students to pursue their passion, to pursue their dream. And that led us to collaborate. As I mentioned before, we are preparing and guiding our students towards the IGCSEs and the A-levels. And we have become now, and we are very proud and very delighted to say that we've become online examination centers for both examination authorities, and it's Cambridge and it's Pearson. So we are closely working with them, and we are now in the position of also having a waiting list. Not everyone can join School Beyond Limitations, although we do anything if a student says yes, if a student wants to really go and come along with us, then we will do anything. We go always the extra mile. And our network is such a collaborative network that although we work online, it's like working offline together because we are constantly in contact with one another for the benefit of our students. So I think what I would like you to still be aware of, so School Beyond Limitations is now a steady school, the only holistic online school worldwide. That's why we have started our American branch already this year, and we will further establish this next year. And our next step will be the Asian branch. And I forgot to tell you even one important aspect, that after 1.5 years I created also the primary school context, because the primary school, it was just a given that since the secondary school worked so well, that there was the need also for primary school. And if I look at our primary school students who started with us, we were filling one class in 1 week at a time. And if I look at those students who started with us and who stayed with us until now, and it's now 2.5 years, it's incredible. We have students 6 years old now. Actually, today is one of our students' birthday. It's incredible. And this student came to us at the age of 4, not even 3.5 at the time, without knowing any English, no English, without having any reading and writing skills or problem-solving skills. And now this student is actually lecturing other students many times, even in secondary school, with ease and with lightness and presentation skills, and not only presentation skills, the communication skills, the emotional skills and the social skills of this student are extraordinary. And it's those skills that also, companies and entrepreneurs just look for in today's society. So this is what we are doing. So our journey is a very exciting journey. Very exciting, as you see. We've developed primary school, and we have also developed now the university, starting our own teacher training course. And it's now, I think we have already done 2.5 years of teacher training, and that led to other universities also to reach out to us and ask us whether we would actually hold modules for them at their universities. And we will further establish and develop the university program of School Beyond Limitations, which is University Beyond Limitations, because our blueprint will actually lead us through all our journey. And that's it. That blueprint reads as follows: in all we do, we believe in the power of education by bringing the unique essence of each student into life. And if you also like your child, your son, your daughter, or your son, be part of such a vibrant and innovative, holistic school environment, then just click and open the link that will be in the description. And I'm looking forward to meeting you during the application process. We always take a lot of time. Our application process is really, really very, very well thought through. We'll take time for you and your questions. We will take time for your child, for your daughter, for your son. And then I'm happy to get to know you then. I wish you well, and see you at our next podcast. At School Beyond Limitations, we support our students find their unique essence. Feel free to share the content of this podcast with other parents. We are here to show that your children can indeed bring their unique essence into life. So, reach out to us if you think that this is what you'd like your daughter, your son to experience, or apply through our website. Also, leave your comments, your questions, or your review about the podcast. Share it with others. And as you know, sharing is caring.
Trust and you can see.